Hello, welcome back to Health Score. We are talking today about the category of rest and activity, and specifically about limiting total sitting time. The recommendation here is to limit total sitting time each day to not more than 8 hours. There is good evidence that the more you sit beyond 8 hours, the greater the risk of premature death. 8 hours is that threshold where there's a significant increase beyond 8 hours for all cause mortality. How exactly does sitting increase risk of premature death? Well, there's several mechanisms. One is it increases triglycerides and decreases HDL cholesterol. Both of these are increased risk for heart disease and heart attack. And then secondly, prolonged sitting leads to insulin resistance or decreased insulin sensitivity, and that leads to obesity and diabetes. So, tips for accomplishing this goal. I'll start by prefacing this with a lot of people think that when they're asked if they're physically active, if they engage in regular aerobic and strength training activities, they're fine. And it doesn't really matter if they're at an office job all day and night or all day and then go home and sit on the couch all night. It's becoming increasingly clear that independent of whether or not you're exercising aerobically and doing strength training, it's important what you do for the rest of the day. The best case scenario is you're doing your strength training, you're doing aerobic exercise, and you're limiting your total sitting time. But doing just aerobic and strength training doesn't cancel out the harm from sitting all day and sitting all night. So when a lot of people hear this recommendation, they think, okay, I'll just remember to get up often throughout the day. Problem with this recommendation is that people don't stick to it. So in San Francisco, about every one of my patients has a standing desk, but they're still exceeding 8 hours of total sitting time at the office because they've made their default option sitting. So they have to actually make a conscious effort to stand. And only when it's in the forefront of their mind and they're not busy on a task do they think about standing. What I propose is that you make standing the default. So you come into work, you have a standing desk, it's in the standing position. You don't even have to think about standing. That's how you're set up to work. This is the concept of choice architecture that was described in the book Nudge by Richard Thaler and Cass Sunstein. But the bottom line is that it's making the default choice the right choice, making standing your default option. In my apartment, I have a standing desk for where I do my work. If I had a sitting desk and I had to consciously think to stand, I would be far less likely to do so day in and day out. So I recommend a standing desk, and I recommend changing the architecture in your house and your work so that the easier option is the standing option. You can get full-blown workstations for standing that are upwards of $300-400. You can also get a $40 stand to go on your existing desk. You can even pile a box onto a stand. I've used bookshelves. I put my computer on a bookshelf and I didn't have a standing desk in the past. Finally, a lot of my patients will ask me, well, I can't sit, that's harmful, but I don't want to stand, so could I just lie down all day? And the answer is no. So part of the benefit of standing is the calf muscle contractions that occur and help with circulation when you're standing. If you're lying down, just like with sitting, you're not getting that calf contraction, you're not getting that blood to circulate throughout the body. Lying down would have the same harmful effect if you did it all day as does sitting. So in conclusion, I've described for you the literature on sitting and how sitting for less than 8 hours is the goal. We talked about the harms from sitting, in addition to it causing an increased risk of premature death. I recommended that you make sitting the easy choice, the default option. And I suggested ways for you to do that by changing the architecture in your work and living environment. I wish you the best of luck in implementing these practices and making standing your default. Thank you very much.